We are going to talk about reading comp. Last time we talked about how your number one goal is to get the main point out of this author. Like, why are you wasting my time? What is the point here? You want to do two things at once. I know it's a little bit challenging, but you want to stay focused and move forward, but understand what you're reading. So sometimes that means stopping and rereading sentences. I think that's faster in the long run, because if you don't understand something and you stop and you reread it and now it makes sense, the rest of the passage is going to make more sense, right? It really sucks if you read like 2 paragraphs and then read them again. That's just, ugh, right? So as soon as you see a problem, say, wait, hold, what were you saying? Okay, gotcha. But then also keep in the back of your mind, like, why are you telling me this? What's your point? What are you trying to convince me of? Or what do you want me to know? Okay, so that's the main point. And by the time you're done with the passage, you should ideally know what the main point is. The only other thing I wanted to talk about today was that when you go into the answer choices, if you've read the passage well, you were critical and demanding that the author get their point across to you, then usually the questions will go easier and faster because you just understand the passage. You know what was said, and they're just testing your reading comprehension. Keep in mind that the vast majority of questions in reading comprehension, unlike logical reasoning, the vast majority of questions in reading comprehension are some form of inference question. They're like, look, given what was said in the passage, what's got to be true? Given what was said in the passage, what's most strongly supported? What could you properly infer from the passage? What is the author most likely to agree with? That's a disagree question, right? But it's agree format. So, bottom line, they're just saying, hey, what was said? Tell me what was said. With that, the correct answers in reading comp, generally speaking, are likely to be what? Weaker, right? If you see an answer choice that says may in reading comp, and it happens a decent amount of times, it's probably correct. Now, the subject matter could be totally wrong, right? It might be like, Joe may quit his job, and the whole article was about how Joe's going to stay with his job forever. And you're like, no, he may not quit. But other than that, like, weak answers are good because the vast majority of questions are inference questions. Now, there are some strengthened questions. That's pretty rare. There's some other types, but they're just not that common. Also, when it comes to the questions, I would suggest trying to predict a loose answer when you can, right? So if they ask you, what does the author think of this paragraph or this idea? If you just start looking at answers, you're not giving yourself the 10 seconds it takes to think about it. Like, you're like, wait, what would the author think about that? Oh, the author would agree with that, or the author would disagree with that. You don't need to write an essay. Just yes or no. That's it. But that's enough to get you oriented so that when you're looking at the answers, you're not getting kicked around, right? It takes a little bit more work. It's easier. The easier path is to just read the question and then start reading the answers and wait for the one that feels good to you, right? This is why I think we like multiple choice since the time we were children. We're like, I don't have to come up with anything. I can just sit here and be like, yeah, no, yeah, right? But on the LSAT, if you can be a little bit more proactive, say, okay, I just read your question. Here's my loose, not precise, but loose answer. Then going through the answers will go all that much faster and better. So just put in a little bit more effort in the passage and in predicting the answers. Some answers you can't predict, don't worry about it, right? Like if it's like, which one of the following is most strongly supported by the passage? You're like, well, there's a whole lot of things that could be supported by the passage. One other thing to keep in mind is that there are anywhere from 5 to 8 questions. The correct answer to those 5 to 8 questions is almost always just said somewhere in the passage. This is different from logical reasoning. A lot of times in logical reasoning, you have to put 2 and 2 together. You have to, figure out what must be true if you combine 2 things. In reading comp, a lot of answers are just like, oh, it was said there on line 12, right? So, in any case, if you understand the passage, the answer should just be something you found. Good luck. We're going to do a challenge.